everyone, it's Friday, so time for another Friday Reads, and I think this one is going to be a long one, so got a cup of tea, relax, because I have a lot of things to talk about. Some housekeeping first. I have started trying my hand at bullet journaling, and I'm really liking it so far. I have been playing with spreads and see which one works best for me, and the weekly pages spreads I think work best for me, but that means that it is a lot more logical for me to do these kind of weekly wrap-ups on a Sunday or a Monday morning. So if you don't mind, let me know if you mind, but if you don't mind, I think I'm going to stop with the Friday reads. This was probably going to be my last Friday reads, and I'm going to move it into weekly wrap-ups or weekly reads on Mondays. And probably you will see the videos on Monday, even though sometimes I might record them on Sunday. So yeah, if I hope it doesn't make a lot of difference to you, but if it does, let me know, and I will reconsider. But yeah, that I wanted to just say that. And then, other than that, there were a couple of literary prizes that were announced this week. The first one was the Women's Prize for Fiction, which I made a reaction video to, and I will link it down below. But yeah, I was a bit lukewarm about it. I was moderately interested on the books that they picked. There's a couple that I want to read, but the whole list overall was not exactly my cup of tea. And in my comments for that video, someone told me that there is this book, there is another book prize that is called the Jalak Prize, and it's a prize for people of color, I think. And I went through the list, and it sounds so much more interesting. There is The First Woman is there. Rainbow Milk is there. There are several others that I have heard and I was interested in. So I was really excited looking at that prize. I still don't think I'm going to follow it because I already have too many projects going on. But yeah, that sounded a lot more interesting, and I think they started a few years ago, and I wanted to bring light to it because I thought it was a great idea and it looks really, really good. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. And I think that prize mixes fiction and non-fiction, because I saw the address book in there, which is something that I also want to read. So yeah, it was quite interesting. Maybe I will follow it more closely next year if I have the time. But yeah, go check that out. I will also put a link down below to that prize. Also, other than that, this Monday was International Women's Day, so happy Women's Day to everybody. I didn't celebrate too much here. People don't celebrate too much. In Spain it's a much bigger deal, I think. But yeah, I still happy Women's Day. And then another exciting thing that happened this week is that my library, after a year, finally figured themselves out how to arrange a pickup service for books. So they finally have a pickup service for books in the main library, which is where most books in English are. So I immediately, the moment I found out, I immediately ordered some books, and I have some new books that I'm excited to read. So the first one is Native Son by Wright, and I fully blame this on Corny from Corny Fairytale. Because she has been telling me that this is really good and I have to read it. So I picked it up from the library. The next one I picked up was Rosewater by Tate Thompson. And this one, it's supposed to be a Nigerian dystopian, I think. And although I don't read a whole ton of fantasy and dystopian and things, I want to read one every once in a while. And I thought this one sounded really good. And I have heard everyone liked it, so I picked this one up. Then I picked two up that are I was going through the Storycraft challenges, and they have a couple of challenges that I was interested in, so I picked up some books that fit those challenges. And the first one is Ghachar by Vivek Shanbhag. I have heard a lot of people like it. It's apparently about what money does to a family, and is set in India, and it's super short. So I thought I will pick it up and see what it is about. And then the other one is one that my Storygraph has been recommending me since I signed up for it. So I thought maybe I should pick it up as well, and it's The Pickup by Nadine Gordimer. I don't know much about what it is about, but apparently it won the Booker Prize at some point, and Nadine Gordimer won the Nobel Prize. Wow, I didn't know that. So yeah, I picked this one up. I haven't read any Nadine Gordimer before, so I'm excited to see what this is about. And then the last one is for Invisible Cities, and it's In the Country of Man by Hisham Matar, which is for my Libya reading. And again, I don't know a lot about this one. It's the only one from Libya that I could find in the library, so I picked it up, but I don't really know what it is about. But Hisham Matar is supposed to be a very famous and recognized Libyan writer, so I thought it will be appropriate. Those are the books that I got from the library, and I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited that the library figured themselves out finally. So yeah, that is good news. And the other news on the Dutch sphere is that we have elections next week. They have extended them from Monday to Wednesday because of COVID, so that people have more time to go and vote. I cannot vote. I'm not a citizen in the country, so I cannot vote. But I am very interested to see what happens in those elections. Hopefully they will go okay. Most people say that the current president would probably win, which I'm not ecstatic about, but it's also not the worst that could happen, so, it's okay. But at least we will have a government, because officially we don't have a government right now. They resigned a couple of months ago from a scandal in child benefits, so at least we will have a government, which probably is a good thing. And then the last piece of news before I continue with my actual reads is the fact that this weekend is the mid-month book bash that stories from all the books organized, and I'm planning to participate finally this month. If you don't know, it's Doris organizes this every month of this year so far, and basically it's a weekend in which you read as much as possible. And I'm planning to try to read for a total of 12 hours, so probably not more than a couple of books, but still. I'm happy that I finally am able to participate. The last couple of months I was not able to, but this month I have a pretty free weekend, so I'm planning to participate in a mid-month book bash. So yeah, that was all of the news, and now I want to go into the books I have read. I have read a lot of audiobooks this week because I had a fairly busy but very mechanical work to do. So I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks while I was working, and also because I have been in a very spring cleaning mode. So I have been cleaning a lot the house and vacuuming and inside cabinets and things like that, and I was listening to audiobooks as well when I was doing that. So yeah, I have gone through a few audiobooks. The first audiobook that I read was The Next Great Migration by Sonia Shah, and this one was a bit of a weird one. So it's kind of the author explaining migration of both animals and people and try to make comparisons between the two. And there's also little bits of her own story, because she is the daughter of Indian immigrants to the US, but she is from the US, she was born there. And there is always this very strange there's always this very strange way to approach things when you are from a place but people in that place don't recognize them as their own. and she talks a lot about that, and I liked when she talked about that, and also about the racism against people that migrate, when migration is something natural that everyone, including animals, do. But at the same time, she was also talking about why animals are migrating further and further, and climate change, and also people are migrating because of climate change. And she was trying to make all these parallels, which some of them were a little bit forced for me, and I just think it was a bit all over the place, that this book could have been like 3 books in one. And yeah, I felt like the things that she was trying to say were very interesting, and I agreed with most of the things she was saying about migration and how we should accept it as a normal thing. But at the same time, like, she mixed it with everything else, and I at the end I didn't know if it was a nature book, or it was like a racism book, or it was everything at once. It was very mixed, and yeah, I think it lacked focus. So yeah, but the ideas that she's talking about are interesting. Then I read in audiobook as well, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw, I think. And this is a short story collection. It's a very short book about different women that live, black women mostly, that live in the south of the US, I think in Georgia. And yeah, their lives, and how their relationship to religion, and their relationships within other people and things like that. And I understand why a lot of people like this. It's very compelling, and if you know the place, it's probably really nostalgic in a way of the place you live in. I have never been in Georgia, I have never been in the south of the US, so I didn't have that feeling, but I could imagine this could make that people feel that. But ultimately, what I found was that it's one of those books that tries to touch your emotional chords, and I apparently don't have a lot of those. So yeah, it didn't teach me anything new. It was not something that I found particularly compelling in that sense. So even though I think it's objectively a really good book, it was not my favorite book ever, if that makes sense. And also, I think there were a couple of times in which this is very personal, right? But there were a couple of times in which there are a couple of missed opportunities. There was this story called How to Love a Physicist or something like that. And before that, there were several stories about female romances. And then this one was like, the physicist was a man, and I was like, oh, you should have made that a woman. Like, just break all the barriers then and make the physicist a woman, and then it's again a woman-woman romance. I mean, it's not the fault of the writer to say like, no, I like just do that, but I thought that was a missed opportunity. Maybe I overthought about it, but yeah, that's what I thought about that one. And then the last one I finished was Uncanny Valley by Anna Weiler, and this one is a memoir about the author's time working in Silicon Valley. So apparently she studied philosophy, I think, or something like humanities related, but she decided to go into the tech industry, and how that industry works, how toxic it can be, and also the surveillance part of it. And I think that this was really interesting. I was not expecting anything much about it, but it's actually quite interesting. It didn't teach me anything new, but I like to see the struggles of women working in a male-dominated field, for example, and I also like the discussions about surveillance, because normally when we talk about that, or the books I've read about that, are very fact-focused and are very detailed and very dense, and this was just more of a candid way of saying. So, like, she worked in in customer service, and she had access to all of this information about all the people that she was serving that she could take if she wanted to. And basically the company just relied on a trust basis that they were not going to do that, but of course they could. And of course that information could be used at any time. And I liked the fact that she talked about that in a more approachable way. So yeah, I found it very interesting. So right now I'm listening to an audiobook still that I have not finished, but I am in the middle of, and it's Stranger in Shogun City. And this one is about the life of a woman in the earlier 20th century in Japan. And it is interesting. So it talks a lot about how they were married, how divorce was normal in Japan. It was not shameful, but not having children was shameful. But not too many children, like 2 or 3. And yeah, all these norms, very strict norms in which people live, but they were not that different from, or well, they were different, but they were not that much more stricter than the ones we had here before. But yeah, it was interesting to read about the different cultural rules that Japan had, and still some of them have, I guess. Yeah, nothing much more to say about that one. And then in terms of physical books, I did finish the last 100 pages or so of Black Wave by Kim Ghattas that I was reading last week. And that book is really, really good. It basically looks at the history of the Middle East from a Middle Eastern perspective. And it talks at the end of the book, it was more recent events, and I could relate to those more because I have seen them in the news or in the radio or whatever, so I could relate to them more. And I think it was really well done, this book, and I think it's very important for people to read it so that they can see the Middle East from their perspective and not always through the Western lens. So yeah, that one I would recommend. And then after that I read Iraq Plus 100, edited by Hassan Blasim. And this one was for the Invisible Cities project for Iraq. I buddy read this with Lauren from Reading with Makar, and I think we both agree that we really like the idea. It's an anthology of sci-fi stories based on Iraq, and we both agree that we like the idea and like the introduction, and the afterwards made it make a lot of more sense, and like the reasons why this is important, and the fact that it's a lot harder for these people to write something so outlandish because they don't have the space in their minds with all the things that are going on in their countries to create a whole new world. But then the stories themselves where they had a lot of potential, but the final product was not as enjoyable as it could be. There were a few of them that I liked, but yeah, the overall sense was like they had potential, but they didn't realize it to the full. And I have a vlog for that up, so I will link it down below as well. After that, I also did my Invisible Cities project reading for Mexico, and for that I had 2 books. So the first one was the Ilion crest, which I really, really like. It's very poetic, but in not an overdone, pretentious way. And it plays with the ideas of your body and the ideas of gender, and it's just really, really good. I really liked it. I think it's very thought-provoking. And the other one I read was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. And this one was more okay. It's a fantasy book based on Mexican mythology, and I like the Mexican mythology part. I don't think I've read much about Mexican mythology in a book like that, but the story itself was quite tropey. It was about this girl that opens a box and she's transported to the god world, and these 2 brothers are fighting with each other and she has to take sides, that kind of thing. Quite tropey, but yeah, the mythology was fun. And then I'm also reading Wizard of the Crow by Ngugi, which is part of my read-along. I will also put a link down below to that. I am a bit behind, but I'm planning to catch up this weekend. And I'm loving this, as expected. Yeah, other than that, I am planning to read next week for the Booktube Prize. Hopefully finish with that, and probably I will also try to read the In the Country of Men, so I'm also done with my Invisible Cities project. But yeah, that was all. Let me know if you have read any of these books, what you thought about them, or what you have read this week, and also let me know if you have ideas about changing Friday reads to Monday. And yeah, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye!